Hello, this is Diane Olynick, the host of the Alkimia Success Show, and today we are with Carri Mansfield. She helps busy people to prepare healthy, plant-based meals that are quick, easy, and delicious. She's also a nutritionist credentialed through the Academy of Dietetics and studied health coaching at the Institute of Integrative Nutrition. This sounds very exciting to know how she was able to get in her own journey into this field and how she's helping people right now in their day-to-day with the nutritional field. Thank you very much, Carri, for being here today with us. And please let us know, how did you get started in this field?
Thank you so much, Diana, for having me here today. I actually went to school for nutrition because I've always really loved health, wellness, fitness, nutrition. And so I went to school for nutrition. I got accredited through the Academy of Dietetics. And then I took some time off and I had my kids. And during that time, I started doing just learning on my own. And I started researching different types of diets and different forms of nutrition further than what I had learned in school. And I ended up becoming vegan, to make a long story short. So I started trying to figure out how to incorporate more plant-based eating into the dietetic nutrition education I had received once I started going back into the workforce and looking for a job. And during that time, when I started going back to work, I went back to school at the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. And I just love to keep learning about it. Once you get credentialed in something, you have to keep learning more and getting your credits and all that anyway. But there's always so much to learn. And I'm sure people know from all the news and articles out there, there's always with nutrition, there's so much going on. And I find it fascinating. And once you start, for me personally, when I became vegan, even with my background in nutrition, I wasn't necessarily the healthiest vegan to start off with, because in the beginning, you're just trying to figure out everything. But then as I started incorporating the plant-based eating with what I knew about nutrition, and I just started noticing so many changes, and I really wanted to help other people feel the same changes and feel more energy, feel good in their body again. And it's kind of, as I had a life transition in 2016 where we moved from Connecticut to Texas. I'm in the United States, and that's about halfway across the United States. We moved because of my husband's work. And I had wanted to start my own business for a while. And at that point, it was just a good transition to start my nutrition coaching.
Yeah, that's amazing. So in all of that journey, what would be your advice or your point of view about the reason why somebody would get a lot of benefits by adopting a plant-based diet? What do you say? Would you say to someone who is wondering, why should I start adopting this type of diet?
There's so many benefits to eating more plants. Mm-hmm. There's the standard American diet is just filled with processed foods, animal products, and there's not a lot of phytonutrients, there's not a lot of antioxidants, there's not a lot of fiber, which is huge, that can really keep things moving through the body, keep all your organs nourished. And when you have a diet heavy in plants, especially fruits and vegetables, you notice mental clarity, increased energy. It helps keep you at a healthy weight. It helps you recover better from workouts. I've noticed it help with my kids and their attention spans, depending on, and I'm sure a lot of people with kids can notice a difference. If you have a day, like if the kids are at a party and they have a lot of sugar and they're eating a lot of processed food, sometimes you could even tell just then. And I think it happens as adults too. Our personalities kind of change depending on what we're eating and how it affects us.
Yes, for sure. So sometimes I am, around people and gathering, and I can see, of course, they are having some meats and also, the normal carbohydrates and vegetables. People usually say, I am still getting vegetables, and the normal, regulations from countries, etc., still support that we have to have this amount of protein and vegetables. So I'm eating in a right amount. What would you say in that case when somebody feels that still getting the meat is the right thing to do?
Personally, when I work with people, I don't, I like to start where people are at. So if people are still eating meat, I don't necessarily encourage them to stop right away. I just encourage them to add more vegetables in, add more fruit in, add more healthy whole grains. Because I feel like once you tell someone, no, you can't have that, it's almost like you want it more or you feel restricted, and it just doesn't feel really good to do. And sometimes when you make drastic changes, some people work really well like that. But for the majority of people that I work with, it's more about adding more good things in. So in regards to eating meat, in general, there's just not, comparing meat to plants, there's just not as much nutrition. So I personally, when I work with people, have them just try and reduce their amount of animal consumption and expand their plant consumption just to make it more healthy and more well-rounded. Because even in the United States, I mean, they recommend now between 9 and 13 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. And that is no small feat to try and get. Most people aren't even getting close. I know I have trouble getting close some days too.
Yes. So that seems that is a progressive, kind of like process, not like trying to get the person or the advice there right away to be implemented into the actual full type of diet. It's just a progression, kind of like the way to start doing it. So I remember that at the beginning when I started adopting this diet, as you mentioned, I struggled a lot by keeping, because the truth is that we don't know the amount of nutrients that the body needs. We just eat because it's a need for the body, but we don't have the education to know what is good or not for the body. We just have been doing it like that from the time that we were born. So the question is, how somebody can start adopting, like the right amounts of foods. Is there any special resources, strategy, or how is that works? In my case, I made the mistake, let's say, of sometimes I felt very hungry and the body feels still like the amount of food, I guess, that you used to eat in meat. And for some reason, I was drawn more to eat more carbohydrates when I was starting out. Now that I've been through years also, I realize how that's maybe a reaction of the body at the beginning to feel some of the diet that we had before. How would you advise someone, or on what the strategy to start learning about those needed amount of nutrients that we need in the different forms? Because it's not just one type of nutrient that we need, right?
Right. And that's one of the benefits too, to trying to move things slowly, because if you do take out a whole group of foods, like if you stop consuming dairy or you stop consuming meat, and plants do have protein in them, you can get a wide array of protein through plant-based foods. But as you're learning, that's another reason why I like people to go slow, because they can listen to their body. They can find out, like, okay, I reduced my meat consumption, I'm adding these vegetables, but I'm still feeling really hungry. Yeah. You could maybe find different plant sources that are higher in protein, maybe adding some beans, legumes, nuts, and seeds. They can also add in different whole grains that are higher in protein. And also, because carbohydrates aren't necessarily bad, but you want to make sure that they're whole and real foods, and they're rounded out where you're also getting your fats and your proteins in there too, because fats and proteins are really what keep us full for a longer period. So instead of, maybe if you have a piece of whole grain toast, if you put some almond butter on there or put some avocado on there, or something that really will make it more of a substantial thing that you're eating, and it'll keep you fuller a little bit longer. But people are very different, and it is there is science and research, but there's also playing around with what works for you individually, because people are so unique in how they process food and the ratio of carbs, fats, and proteins that work for them in their diet too.
Yeah, that's definitely the way that I see it. Advice, general, advice could be there, but that's why it's important to get the guide of a coach, like an expert like you, to help us navigate through those difficult circumstances sometimes that we face and the doubts that we have, in order to understand how to work around and still get the correct amount of nutrients that we need. And that is a process that happens totally individualized. Everybody works in a different way. And also the genetics of that play an important role. So that's why it's so important to have a coach like you. So I'm very glad that you are here today explaining us how is that all of this works. Thanks so much. How can we learn to prepare meals quickly? How is that you give that type of advice? What are the strategies for that?
What I like to do with people is work with exactly where they're at. So if some people enjoy cooking, some people like to prepare a lot and they like to cook in the kitchen, and they'll cook 5 to 7 days a week, and that makes them happy. And that's great. And we come up with a plan around that. But then there's also people that want something quick and want to use some convenience foods. And when I say convenience foods, I'm not referring to processed foods, but whole real foods that you can get already maybe chopped up, maybe getting your vegetables pre-chopped in the fresh section instead of the whole thing of cauliflower, you have them pre-chopped, or getting them frozen, because a lot of frozen vegetables and grains have just as much nutrition as fresh, if not more. Or we talk about ways to use leftovers, or we'll work with different things. One of my favorite things that I suggest for people to do is to pick a grain, pick a vegetable, and pick a sauce, and pick a protein, and you just throw them together in a bowl. And you can really get it done in like 20 minutes or so if you do some advanced prep work. Because some of the prep work and it doesn't take a long time. When I say prep, sometimes people freak out that they're going to have to spend 3 hours doing food preparation. But to make a grain, you can do that. I mean, it takes a while to cook, but you can do that and walk away. You don't have to sit there and babysit your food as it's cooking. So if you can do a little bit of advanced prep, then during the week when things get busy, when you have to work, when you have the kids you have to bring places, you can throw something together in 20 to 30 minutes, and it isn't nearly as big of a hassle.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like those strategies. So, very practical advice there. How about kids? What are the strategies that you think, or how it should be managed with kids? What do you think about that?
Kids are a lot of fun. They really help me, especially mine. I have one kid that will eat pretty much anything, and I have another one that is definitely more picky. But we play around with things, and over the years, he has gotten so much better at trying things, and he's still particular about what he eats, but it's just about you keep introducing things, and eventually they'll try more. But with kids in general, I like snack foods and things that are more able to just be picked at. So even for my kids' lunches, sometimes giving them maybe hummus with their lunch, or cut up vegetables and cut up fruit. Maybe we'll do something with tortilla wraps, and trying to make it more fun, even though, I mean, whether they're little kids or older kids, just making it more fun and engaging, and also having them help, because my kids will help. I make energy bites all the time, just kind of, we'll mix up some oats and nuts, and usually a nut butter and some maple syrup. Sometimes we put some chocolate chips in there, and just getting them involved with making it really, really helps to get them excited and want to try something that they make.
Yeah, I've done that. It's so amazing how by being involved in the process, they start to love more the food, because they know that it was their own creation, that they put effort there and creativity. So they really value that. I also said with kids it's so much fun. They love to be participate in the process, and they love to have that feeling when they are at certain age, of course, that they are being taken into account and participating in that. I think that they like that, and they are so open. No, with adults we are more like limited. We have more, very strong beliefs about certain things and concepts, but they are more open. So in my own opinion, when I invite or explain, when I explain my kid about certain, because my approach is more like about ethic with the animals, he feels so open to embrace that, uh, through the understanding, and he loves to participate in those conversations with me. So it's also like an experience, not just in the cooking, but also in the reflection of the ethics that we were talking before about. I find that very,
Absolutely.
very beautiful, that process. So that's why I asked you about, strategies in terms of the foods. And it's great to hear how you go around, and there are actual ways, because that's what we would like people to know, that there are actual ways to combine whole foods and fruits, vegetables, and things that are super helpful and nutritional for them. And by that, what we are doing is helping them to make better decisions when they are, older in life. And so
Yes.
that is contributing to something very, that is going to have compounded results in their own lives later on. So what do you think about that?
I 100% agree, because when you cook in the kitchen together, it really, even just eat, like we've always had family meals at the table for dinner especially, and just the conversations that come up from that.
Yeah.
So when you're making food with the kids, you can explain to them why you're putting certain things in there, why you use this and not that. And no matter how you eat, whatever your preference, if you're educating your kids on the healthfulness of foods and why we eat this and not that,
Mm-hmm.
it is really empowering. And like you said, the goal is when they're on their own, they'll notice a difference if they start eating more. I always tell one of my kids, he's got quite the sweet tooth, and I'm like, when you go end up out on your own, if you go getting takeout all the time, and then my goal is that you will be able to recognize that you're not feeling good, you're getting more sluggish, and what I have taught you while you've been home with me, you'll be able to start implementing and use to start feeling better again.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking about that, those conversations, sometimes we realize that there are many myths outside about nutrition. So what are some of those myths that we have been with the society in terms of nutrition that you feel that is not truth?
I guess the big one is just that you need meat to get enough protein, because I've been vegan for 10 years at this point, and I work out regularly. I have no problem building muscle. I have no problem keeping up at the gym. I haven't had any issues personally, and you do hear about, I do want to clarify too, though, you do need to pay attention to your body and how you feel, and look at what you're eating, because what I promote is a whole foods, plant-based diet. Because if you're just eating vegan, plant-based food that's not whole and it's highly processed, then you might, I could definitely see how you'd miss out on nutrients and things like protein. But if you're eating whole, real foods, you're going to get, and a variety of foods, you're going to get what your body needs.
Yeah, for sure. Yes, there are many ideas outside that where, the industry and through many sources, these ideas came to place, and it's such a huge industry, actually, the meat industry. And so we came to, at some point, I realized, at least in my own experience, that I was adopting all of this and doing all of this, as I said before, because that's how I was raised. But going deeper, I was able to realize that, yeah, maybe there are some ideas there that are not necessarily truth, and maybe we are missing and there are just myths. That's why I wanted to explore that from your perspective. I think that many things in our life is based out of um, myths, like preconceived notions of things that it's good to evaluate them, to know why, or realizing ourselves why we are eating this, why I are consuming this. We never ask those questions, so we just do it. But why? How can I know that this is totally what I need? How can I know that? So then that question, I feel that it leads people to find more information. And when we get to find more information, maybe we discover, that was just an idea that I had. So the discovery part was also interesting in my own experience. And that's why I support a lot this type of diet, because it's what allow me to find more, as you explain, energy, feel more, rested, even, and being able to exercise. Before I used to even buy those protein powders and stuff, even though I was getting chicken, like breast chicken and all of that, to try to get more muscular mass. And I realized that was a myth, because after years of having this type of diet, I realized that my body was basically in the same shape. So without even without the meat. So we have many conceptions that were placed there from the outside that we need to evaluate, basically. That's why I ask you the question of the myths about nutrition. So like, how do you see this going in terms of nutrition? I've seen many products that are outside that say it's like a replacement of meat. It has the form of meat, but it's a replacement, like a soy protein based meat, let's say, or beef. Or what do you think about those type of products? It seems that it's looking like a substitute for meat, but I'm not quite sure about the nutritional part. What do you think about that?
Personally, those are more processed foods, so we want to limit those if you do decide to incorporate them into your diet. I think they're great for people that want to give up animal products but have a really hard time and are really missing the textures and the tastes. We do, because we'll eat them in our house sometimes, just more the rest of my family, because I really don't miss the texture or anything of meat at all. But I think there's a good place for them. And I actually read a study that just came out, I think last week or the week before, about the Beyond products.
Yeah.
And they were showing that people were having improved health on those compared to eating the animal-based ones. But it's still a processed food, so it's not something I would necessarily want people eating all the time. And it really depends on the product. You really need to turn it over, look at that ingredient list, because some of the plant-based burgers out there, the first ingredient will just be wheat or soy, which I have no problem in general with wheat and soy. But if that's the main ingredient in a veggie burger, you really want to have a vegetable there, or beans, or have it be more whole real foods in a veggie or a bean burger. That being said, I would say first you want to look at the ingredients and have it be an occasional food, something maybe you bring to a cookout, something that you have maybe once a week, if that, but not something you necessarily want to eat every day.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I've been curious about that, and it's interesting, that you were just getting some information that is updated. So it's great to know that point of view. But anyways, it has to have preservatives, right? Because it's a product that is sold to the masses, so it has to have some chemicals there. So yeah, it's goes by options with people, but it's great that you point out the fact that just to have some sometimes different options, or for people who is in the process of transitioning, that's maybe a good option, so they can start going slowly into that process through the use of those products. So what is coming for you? I'm excited because I think that you have a recipe blog and a recipes book or something like that.
I do. On my website, I have a link to a free recipe book, and I do have a blog that I'm constantly updating with new recipes and health tips and things like that. I also have a Facebook page or a Facebook group, Sustainable Plant-Based Eating, where I'll put recipes out there, health tips and stuff like that.
That's awesome. And do you have any project that you're working on right now that you're excited to tell us about?
I'm excited about a plant-based meal planning group that I'm starting next week. That's just once a week meeting over Zoom and just talking about different plant-based meal options and just really simplifying the meal planning process, just to help people get some healthy meals on the table with very minimal planning. And we're just showing people how it doesn't have to take a long time. It can be relative. I mean, it will take some time because we're not getting takeout, but just showing people that you can eat healthy and you can make food at home and it can taste good and it doesn't have to take forever.
Yeah, that's awesome. Usually, as you mentioned before, we have this idea that if it's vegetables, you're gonna have to be cutting stuff and preparing all of this and all the time doing that and learning on top of that how I am gonna prepare all of this. I don't know what to combine with what, how the correct amount of the grains, and like it's a lot of information to take. But that's why you are here helping us in all of that journey, that beautiful journey. So if somebody wants to really get into this, which I hope everybody got excited because there are just benefits of adopting this type of diet, how can they find you?
Like I mentioned before, you can find me in my Facebook group, Sustainable Plant-Based Eating. I'm also just on Facebook, Carri Mansfield, or Carri Mansfield Coaching. On Instagram, I'm Carri Mansfield Coaching. And also my email is carri@carrimansfield.com.
Yeah. How about juice recommendation that you have? I think that in your page you also have like some juices type of recommendations.
I do Juice Plus. I do work with them, and that's been a great product, just a concentrated way to get fruits and vegetables into people when they really struggle with eating a lot of it.
That's awesome. Thank you very much for that amazing insight. Is there anything that you wish I had asked you today?
I don't think so. I think this was good.
Okay,
I had a lot of fun.
That's great. Yes, for sure. Thank you very much for sharing with us all of these, strategies, your experience, your journey, which is beautiful always to know. How is that everything in your life took you to this point, and to have the expertise that you have now. So that is always special, and to, to share with other people. So thank you for taking the time of doing this and opening up and sharing everything about you and your experience and expertise. Thank you again, and see you in the next episode. Bye for now.
Thank you, Diana.
Thank you.